Students with Disabilities Participating in Sports by Kyle McKinley, Final Research Project. Children with physical disabilities are at increased risk of limitations to participation in everyday activities. With this in mind, extracurricular activities, including interscholastic athletes, are a significant part of the American educational scene. National surveys of disability report the prevalence of childhood disability and limitations to participation in daily activities to be 6.5% in the USA, 4.2% in the most recent Canadian survey, and 4.6% in Australia. Children with physical disabilities experience rates of activity limitation that are 2 to 3-fold those in children with other chronic conditions such as asthma. There was a study that looked at disabled students participating in formal and informal activities. Formal activities such as music or art lessons, organized sports, or youth groups are typically more structured, have rules and organization, involve leaders, and often require replanning. Informal activities such as reading, talking on the phone, or doing a puzzle are typically more spontaneous, occur with less planning, and have fewer rules. It was seen that children with disabilities performed less formal activities and more informal activities. One of the main reasons is in getting them involved on a social level. One area of participation that is of particular interest is the level of involvement in physical-based activities by children with disabilities. Results from the study indicate that children with physical disabilities participated in an average of only 3 out of 10 physical activities. Physical activities are important to enhance strength and functioning. Given the current frequency of therapy, intervention, and issues of childhood obesity, the level of involvement in physical activities found in this sample is a cause for concern. This research provides a foundation from which to gain an improved understanding of the participation of children with physical disabilities in recreational and leisure activities. Such information can assist families and service providers in planning activities that fit with their child's preferences and ensure active participation. Performing activities and getting involved with others helps make for a well-rounded student, where they will not feel like an outcast just because of a disability, but rather feel like they fit in with everyone else. One of the best ways a student could get involved and experience this is through activities at their school. Schools offering these experiences have a responsibility to provide youngsters with disabilities equal opportunities to gain the same benefits from these experiences as their peers without disabilities. Although a strong basis for their development of interscholastic sports programs is clearly evident, relatively little has been accomplished in this area. Some advances have been made to accomplish this. However, much more has to be done to enhance the programs and get more students involved. There is framework to help with the development of programs for the students with disabilities. This could be seen in the following chart. The first option is electronic sport. This option is particularly important for persons with disabilities participating individually or on teams participating independently from opponents and electronically communicating the results to a central coordinating organization. Some examples of this are bowling, track events, and weightlifting. When the events are over, the scores will be figured out. They are matched up with different classifications such as individual sport or team, also with age, gender, etc. The second option is called parallel sport. In this option, sport competition involving persons with disabilities is with or right after regular sport competition. An example of this is during a track meet, when disabled students in wheelchairs will compete right after the non-disabled students run. It could also be seen when they compete together on the track. The third option is the segregated sport option. This could be seen when only students with disabilities compete against themselves. The fourth option is a unified sport option. This is different from the third option because both students with and without disabilities participate in groups or on teams. This option should be strongly encouraged. One of the ways it could be implemented is when a school cannot field a team with non-disabled players. They will fill the spots with disabled players. The fifth and perhaps the most appealing option is regular sport. In this option, students with disabilities are included in regular sport competition. During this option, some accommodations may need to be made, but not always required. This is seen when you have a deaf student playing on the basketball team, or a student with a prosthetic device plays on the soccer team. Another way to get disabled students involved is to use four standards. These standards will evaluate the appropriateness of game modifications. The four standards are challenging, safety, integrity, and implementation. Challenging. This standard recommends that modifications should promote the maximum use of physical, cognitive, and social skills possessed by the student with disabilities. Too much or too little support deprives students of opportunities to practice these skills. Safety. Any modifications need to contribute to making an injury-free environment. If the modification allows team players without disabilities to bump into a student who uses a wheelchair, that should be discarded. Integrity. Substantial changes in rules and materials might undermine the integrity of the game, leading students without disabilities to having fewer opportunities to enjoy the original format of the game. Therefore, we need to develop modifications that allow all students to maximize their potentials in the game. Implementation. Because both human and material resources tend to be in short supply, the modifications should not cause undue burden on practitioners. With this standard, you should be able to get everyone involved. Another good thing is that it won't cost any additional money and you won't need any assistance to help out. Having these students participate in team sport games allows the students with severe multiple disabilities to have a sense of membership. We need to give students with severe multiple disabilities new opportunities to participate in an essential part of team sport games. We can thus improve the students' targeted skills, enhance their sense of belonging, and ultimately build friendships with their peers. The government-made schools, which are bound by federal law, ensure that students with disabilities are given equal opportunities to compete in school athletics. These guidelines state that schools have to make reasonable modifications for disabled students to play on regular teams whenever possible, as long as the modifications won't alter the way the sport is to be played. The guidelines also state the school system should provide alternative athletic opportunities for students for whom they cannot make reasonable accommodations, such as wheelchair tennis or wheelchair basketball teams. With these guidelines, disabled students who would have never dreamed of competing in a varsity event are now competing and are experiencing competition, teamwork, goals, etc. The state of Georgia has also been improved their athletic opportunities for students with disabilities, thanks to the efforts of the American Association of Adapted Sports Programs. In the last 11 years, AAASP, or AAASP, athletics have grown to hundreds of athletes. These athletes play one of six sports: indoor wheelchair soccer, wheelchair basketball, power hockey, wheelchair football, track and field, and beep baseball. Alabama has since become a partner with AAASP and started off their program by including wheelchair events and track and establishing its first adapted sports division. All of the AAASP programs follow a progressive schedule that goes from one sport to another to help develop the skills of student athletes. They will start with wheelchair soccer to build a baseline, and then go to wheelchair basketball and power hockey. They will finish up with wheelchair football, track and field, and beep baseball. In conclusion, in this day and age, we still see limitations being put on students with disabilities in being able to play sports. As you have seen throughout this presentation, there are different organizations, states, and the government that are trying to get disabled students more involved. As long as the activities or sports can be modified without changing them, there should be no reason to not give everyone a chance to compete. Here is the works cited for this research project. Thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoyed.